Hello everyone. Tonight we'll be doing Module 1, Lesson 13, and we're going to start with division. We will divide decimals that involve compatible numbers. And we're going to use place value and relate to the written method. And in case you forgot what a compatible number is, it is a number that is related to a basic fact. Before we begin, I just want to review some division vocabulary. There are three parts to a division problem. The first part is the dividend. This is the big group that we are picking apart into smaller groups. And if it's written as a sentence, the dividend is the first number in the sentence. And if we're using the standard algorithm, the dividend is the number that's in the house. So remember that dividend means the big group that we're taking apart. The second part is the divisor, and that is the number that tells how many parts are we putting the dividend into. If our equation is in sentence form, it's the second number. And if we're using the standard algorithm, it's the number to the left of the dividend. And then, of course, the quotient is the answer. It's going to be at the end of the sentence or on top of the algorithm if we're using the standard algorithm. So remember, the quotient is the answer to a division problem. Our first problem is 9/10 divided by 3. I'm going to use the place value chart for this first one. And since my dividend is 9/10, that means that's the big group that's getting chunked up into smaller parts. So I need to put that 9/10 in the place value chart. And I know that I'm going to be dividing by 3, so I'm going to go ahead and put the 9 in groups of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to circle the groups. I have 1, 2, 3 groups. And then I need to look at each group and see how much is in each one. Well, 3, and they're in the tens place. So my answer will be 3/10. Now, for the standard algorithm, we're going to put the big group inside the house, as we like to call it. And instead of writing it in standard form, I'm just going to write 9/10 in there. So that's the dividend. My divisor goes off to the left. That's the 3, which means I'm going to put it into groups of 3, and I want to know how many are in each group. So 9 divided by 3 is 3, and the unit we're using is 3/10. So my answer in standard form would be 3/10. Our next problem is 24/100 divided by 4. It's a little bit more complex because we have a 2-digit dividend. So we could put 2 in the tens place and 4 in the hundreds place. But the problem with that is after we divide this 4 in the hundreds place, then we have 2 in the tens place, and we can't really put 2 into groups of 4. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and put instead of thinking of this as 2/10 and 4/100, I'm going to think of it as 24/100 because when I see this, I see there's a basic fact there, 24 divided by 4. So I'm going to go ahead and make my place value dots, discs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm up to 12 now. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And then I'm going to see, there's my 4 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the last thing I have to do is count the number in each group. And I see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And those 6 are in the hundredths place. So 6 hundredths will be my answer. 24 hundredths divided by 4 equals 6 hundredths. For the standard algorithm, I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to write it as, well, I'm going to need a little more space to write hundredths after this. 24 hundredths divided by 4. And of course, there's my basic fact. 24 divided by 4 is 6, and my unit is hundredths. So my answer again in standard form will be 6 hundredths. Now it's your turn. You're going to divide 32 thousandths by 8. You can use the place value chart. You can use the standard algorithm and name the units and not worry about the decimal place until the end. Or if you feel confident that you can do okay using the standard algorithm with the decimals in place, you can give that a try too. Our next problem is 1 5/10 divided by 5, and I'm going to take a look at my numbers, and I see that the number in the tenths place is easily divisible by 5, but the number in the ones place is not. So I'm going to, if there was no decimal here, however, I notice that it is a basic fact. So instead of thinking of this as 1 5/10, I'm going to think of it as 15 tenths. Then I'm going to divide that by 5. And I know that 15 divided by 5 is 3. And my unit is tenths. So then I have to convert my answer to standard form. And 3 tenths is written 0.3. Our next problem is 1 5/100ths divided by 5. So I could put 1 disk in the ones place and 5 disks in the hundredths place. And I could easily divide those 5 hundredths by 5. But I have a problem over here because there's only 1 in the ones place. So that's not going to work. What I'm going to do is transform that 1 whole into 10 tenths, because I know that 10 is divisible by 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I'm going to circle groups of 5. And in the hundredths place, I have 1 group of 5. And in the tenths place, I have 2 groups of 5. So my answer, well, I have 0 in the ones place. My quotient is going to be 21 hundredths. I'm going to solve the same problem using the standard algorithm in unit form as opposed to standard form. So my dividend, 1 5/100ths, if you recall the place value chart, I called this 10 tenths instead of 1 5/100ths. And then my divisor is going to be 5. And I know that 5 goes into 10 2 times, so that will be 2 tenths. And 5 goes into 5 1 time. So I'll have 2 tenths and 1 hundredth. So my quotient, written in standard form, will be 21 hundredths. Now it's your turn. You're going to divide 3 and 15 thousandths by 5. So if you use a place value chart, think about how you can break the numbers up, look for compatible numbers, numbers that can be divisible by 5. If you want to use the standard algorithm with unit form, think about how do I want to break those numbers up. Many of you might know how to use the standard algorithm with decimal, standard numbers, which is great, but you might want to double check yourself by either using a place value chart or using unit form just to make sure that you have that decimal in the right place in your answer. And we've got one more. It's kind of a big one. 63 and 21 thousandths divided by 7. So do your best. Once again, use whatever method works best for you, but remember to check yourself carefully and rewatch any part of the video you might need to so you're 100% sure of your answer before you turn it in to me. Good luck, and I'll see you in class tomorrow.